I don't even care. I don't even care anymore that it's not even parody anymore. It's not even I'm just straight ripping this. I'm here. We're taking it. It's now here. This is stolen valor. Okay? I don't even care anymore. Hi everyone. Forgot the echo last time here. And welcome to Let's Argue, a segment that I'm ripping directly from Fantano's channel and recombobulating it here for a Destiny or a video game audience. We're going to be doing mainly Destiny questions today. What is Let's Argue? Let's Argue is where I'm taking your Destiny questions, your Destiny opinions, your hot takes. Me, the opinion man, I'm going to give my opinion on your opinions, and we're just gonna have a little conversation. That's all we're doing. Just a little conversation. Letting crafted weapons have enhanced perks was a mistake. Yeah, it definitely did take away from, the ability for Bungie to sort of give end game pieces of content an edge over their crafted counterparts. Especially after Bungie continued to reduce the need to really gather a lot of materials or invest heavily into your crafted weapons in the first place, to the point where now you can just, as soon as you have the pattern, you can just craft your way to a perfectly rolled, perfectly enhanced weapon. I always thought that crafting was going to be some sort of a supplement to the weapon grinding experience, but over time it became just essentially the standard, and then weapon grinding kind of became the supplementary thing that you did in the background. I know we don't have crafted weapons for episode 2, and while I personally don't mind that, I know it does have a lot of people upset, and at this point I'm willing to just say, like, all right, just bring the crafted weapons back for seasonal weapons, who cares? Episodic weapons, who cares? But I think part of the issue is that potentially that because so many of the episode 2 weapons are maybe just lateral side grades at best for a lot of people, it doesn't feel that great to go have to grind out certain activities, Onslaught, Tomb of Elders, in order to try to get a randomly rolled weapon that is, again, just a lateral move in one way or the other. Probably one of the biggest upgrades that we did end up getting in terms of any kind of a weapon roll was the Chill Inhibitor grenade launcher from the dungeon, which is not craftable, but Bungie is currently just giving it away at the vendor. Like, you could just buy it, and that's it. You don't even have to grind for it as a result of the whole perk situation that transpired somewhat recently. So yeah, I think I kind of agree with this. I think crafted weapons should have been, maybe something to kind of get you to that, base level of like having a god roll. But if you really want to go above and beyond, you needed to go do some higher level content. Do you think Bungie needs to do a Destiny 1 Classic server like Blizzard did with WoW? It's in the conversation that's been popping up a lot more. I would love to know your thoughts. Do I think Bungie needs to make Destiny Classic? I think that's probably the least of their concern right now, and I think it would not really be the greatest use of resources if they put like XYZ amount of people trying to do Destiny Classic. I think this is coming up because Destiny 1 had a lot of its prices dramatically reduced. I don't really know how many people are still playing Destiny 1, but I think a lot of this is just kind of based on nostalgia and you trying to, relive that feeling of playing Destiny for the very first time. I did a video on World of Warcraft Classic, it's got to be like 5-6 years ago, whenever it was, about trying to recreate the magic that was old school WoW back in 2004, 2005. A lot of the magic was that we didn't have all this information available, and as a result, it made for a more fun world to kind of explore. Not that it was a perfect experience, but I think people are kind of always trying to chase some of that nostalgia. And, it's not like World of Warcraft Classic isn't popular or anything. It's certainly been, doing very well for itself. But do I think that Bungie needs to spend that time revamping or remastering Destiny 1, especially when it's, it still like runs pretty fine? You can go play it right now. Not really. Maybe if they hired another company to do it, then like, sure. I don't know. Part of me would, as a streamer, think it's kind of fun to relive, like do Destiny Classic or something like that, no matter how they wanted to like roll it out. But if you really want to do that, you can just go do that, right? If you have an old console, you can just go play Destiny 1 again of your own volition. But yeah, I guess it's probably like the community aspect as well would be pretty neat. It'd be cool, but it's just, I don't think that's where Bungie's attention should really be right now. I personally don't like how primary weapons are becoming less and less relevant, and that abilities and keywords do so much of the heavy lifting in combat nowadays. Yeah, there's been a pretty stark difference between, the Forsaken days where I was out here using an outlaw kill clip, go figure, to rack up all of my kills, to where we are today. And I do think that today's gameplay is a bit more dynamic. It's a bit more engaging than where we were a few years ago, where it was primarily just shooting a weapon at some enemies. But I think it kind of depends on the pace of play that you're looking for. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with primary weapons right now. I'm still rocking Zali's Bane very frequently in a lot of the things that I do. Kvastov is also a powerhouse. Outbreak Perfected is a powerhouse in some of these higher end pieces of content. And in higher end pieces of content, you're looking at master raids, grandmaster content, master dungeons. Primaries, I do think, still fulfill some kind of a role within the game. So it maybe feels a little much in lower tier content where things don't really matter as much, but you can just, if you wanted to, throw on a Huckleberry and just call it a day and just mow everything down. Huckleberry plus Peacekeepers for Titans is probably one of the strongest setups that you could possibly have right now, and that is purely just shoot primary weapon at an enemy. So you can spec for it, but maybe this is more of like a PvP related thing, in which case that I can definitely sympathize with a lot more if it is directed at PvP. I think all roaming supers should have the ability to cancel and save some remaining energy, say 40% of remaining, but you can only activate from full. This way there's less frustration when you pop and everything's dead, or you can use it in bursts during longer encounters. Okay. For PvE related things, I would need to think through every single super and be like, okay, what supers could be abused in this way to create some kind of a problem. But just off the top of my head, it feels something that could be pretty acceptable. Maybe like Golden Gun, but I don't really consider Golden Gun to be a roaming super, even though it technically kind of is. PvP, on the other hand, I'm going to leave that to someone who knows a bit more about the PvP landscape nowadays, because I'm sure there are some ways to absolutely abuse that mechanic in some way. But yeah, just off the top of my head for PvE, I'm like, okay, yeah, that seems okay. Hot swapping gear / exotics / loadouts kills raid / dungeons and build crafting. People should be forced to make choices in their build and live with those choices. Hot swapping makes those choices meaningless if they can just be swapped away. I do think this is a pretty bold take, but not necessarily one that I disagree with. I am not very huge into the menu minigame that the meta has kind of been shifting towards over time. I frequently have suggestions in my videos where you should, for the dungeon, for example, I say I'm on one exotic for one segment and then I'm on a different exotic for a different segment. And I think it depends on what kind of angle you come at with that. You can think of it as just a way of you extending your knowledge on the game and taking advantage of knowing what is going to be good in what situations. But I can understand if, on the more casual side of players, you're kind of just okay, I have to swap to what, and then when, and then I have to do what at what time. But I think also the crowd that is using that mechanic the most is not necessarily a crowd that struggles with the game that much in the first place. If loadouts were locked, if they weren't locked, the people using that system would still probably be very successful. Or, maybe not being able to pull off certain little solo raid boss things here and there, but they certainly still would be very successful in the game. And I just don't think casual players are necessarily abusing this mechanic that much. So part of me is yeah, I agree with you, but then part of me is also just kind of does it does it even really matter that much outside of maybe like day one rating, like the raid race, you know? All due respect, but you way overreacted to the counterfeit nerfs. The modifier was frustrating and fell more into the random BS category of difficulty. Modifiers should be more telegraphed and provide room for outplay instead of a heavy brick vaporizing you the instant you melee a thrall. An extension of this, the kind of opposite side of things, the new activity modifiers are good. They force people to change how they play instead of rolling out the exact same strategies we've used for 3+ years. Counterfeit was not that bad and should not have been nerfed so hard. There were better changes that could have been made. So I kind of got pretty annoyed during a couple of streams recently where I saw that Bungie was indeed nerfing counterfeit to the point where it is essentially irrelevant as a modifier and could probably be removed from the game. I also tweeted about it, and I was pretty annoyed, and the response was pretty 50-50. I think a lot of people didn't like what felt like the randomness of it, but I personally didn't really think it was that bad. It's designed to punish certain playstyles. It is completely counterable in that you can just, be a little more aware of your surroundings, but it's basically a way for Bungie to say, hey, if you're using some kind of a melee build or a finisher, you need to be aware that that could be punishing and you should try something else. Elitist Datto will be making an appearance very soon on the channel to talk about modifiers and difficulty and, just that whole gambit of things where I have some choice words, but they'll probably be the final words that I have on any sort of difficulty-related anything until Apollo launches in 2025. Destiny has solidified the game... I'm gonna lose it. Destiny has solidified the same mechanics for a long time now. All content has been using the same mechanics, just in different combinations. This is the biggest reason for burnout. When new content drops, it is only a new combination of mechanics with the occasional actual new mechanism. So this is why I've said frequently in the past that I thought the Menagerie was so good that it would probably ruin all other seasonal activities in the game. It's because it was a really good activity, it introduced fun mechanics, and Bungie has just kind of done that in different kinds of flavors over the past few years. And they can only make things so complex for completely match-made, low difficulty activities, right? You look at something like Tomb of Elders, where, first of all, I think there was some feedback that it doesn't really feel like a roguelike mode, and I feel like there was some commentary on the dev stream about it being a roguelike type thing. But it is essentially just another amalgamation of the same mechanics that we have been experiencing over the past 10 years. Throw the ball, stand on the plate, kill the crystal, do. It's all the same things, just repackaged in a different way. And that is what has absolutely led to a lot of fatigue for a lot of players. I don't think this is particularly hot take whatsoever. But fortunately, I do think they have been keeping at least dungeons and raids somewhat fresh with mechanics, even if the whole, some people know some information and need to relay that to other people who don't know the information mechanic is used somewhat frequently overall. But yeah, this is not a particularly hot take whatsoever, and I do think it is absolutely led to some amount of boredom within the community, which is why I thought some of these more interesting modifiers would be interesting, but again, we'll talk about that another time. Bungie needs to stick to their guns more often and learn to say no to the community. Too many things have been dumbed down because people who aren't willing to put in the time or effort started complaining. I want elaborate, long, and difficult quests for guns again, like Thorn or Mountaintop. I think Bungie acknowledges and listens to those people because they are probably the overwhelming majority of the population that actually plays this game. I am with you. I would love for there to be more difficult things to actually sink my teeth into, but things are the way they are because of feedback given by the community. Bungie listens to that feedback for better or for worse, quite a large amount of the time. So yes, I am with you, but they're going to go where the customers are, especially in these more tumultuous, unknown times where the population of the game has been, let's just say, not as high as usual. Seals are so watered down, they're rubbish now, and there are no standouts that are interesting to get. If it's not just do seasonal content over and over, it's raids and dungeons. Where are the old ones like Wayfarer, Chronicle, and Reckoner? Yeah, seals nowadays are essentially just a checklist of things to make sure that you actually participated in that particular season or episode, and not really anything too much more than that. Which is kind of a shame because it doesn't really make seals very exciting or rare or special in any kind of way. If anything, some of them are a bit more monotonous with some of the triumphs that might be in them, where you have to do several rounds of something like Onslaught, even though you've already shown some level of expertise in it. Having to do 50 rounds of Onslaught to get one of these triumphs that I'm not actually sure is linked to a seal or not, but either way is quite a lot. If there were more interesting things to go do within these triumphs, I would certainly enjoy it a lot more. But even like the one thing that was kind of difficult about certain raid and dungeon seals, I think mainly more raid seals, was that they got rid of needing to do a flawless raid in the raid seal. So that to me was kind of like a signal of like, all right, it's not going to be that thrilling anymore, is it? And they're really not that thrilling. There's just another checklist to make sure you participated. Transcendence will keep the majority of subclasses undesirable. It's ridiculously easy to charge and lets you bully enemies in any way imaginable. Yeah, not really a hot take whatsoever. Transcendence is essentially a miniature super. So really at the end of the day, would you rather have a super and a half or just one super? That's not to say that other subclasses don't have viability. I've been playing a lot on Stasis Hunter this season because of the new helmet, especially now that it's actually working properly. And, you can absolutely tear things up on pretty much any subclass options on any class, as long as you know what you're doing. But being able to take a lot of the best things and then put them onto a subclass that also then gives you another miniature version of a super it's kind of like a no-brainer to want to play that subclass. But yeah, not necessarily that hot of a take. All right, that's all the questions for today. Thank you very much to everyone who submitted over on Blue Sky. We'll do, maybe we'll do like one of these a month, something like that. I'll be posting whenever I'm going to have another one of these coming up, so you can give me more takes. I might take some from this original thread as well. So yeah, let me know, I guess, what you thought. I mean, it's literally, I just stole the show from somebody else and I just reformatted it. So, it's pretty tried and true kind of setup, but like, I don't know. Let me know anyway. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.